I want to say that what's happened in this room, and we're going to give a little bit of clarity. Like maybe tonight we'll talk about humility, and humility in a way that maybe you've never been heard it talked about. And sometimes, even before, we've talked about acceptance in this room, and go to things about addiction, and you realize, well, maybe there's some layer to talk about it, but there might be a little deeper layer. So like if we talk about humility and acceptance tonight, I'm going to give it to you in two different forms. But I think that it took a long time to really understand humility, because you got to get underneath each layer of this thing until you really understand what it means to be humble, and what it means to be humbled by. And so part of the thing that's happened to me lately in this room is that it used to be so much easier to come here because I knew everything, and if I could just come here and tell you what I know, it felt really good, and I was highly motivated to come here because I knew something. So I knew that if I got here and I told you what I know, I might be able to explain to you how I'm smarter than you. But really what ends up happening is over time you start delving into this thing, and just like I said last week, this reduction that people do when they say alcoholism is cunning, baffling, powerful, addiction is cunning, baffling, powerful. That's such a reduction of everything, because when I say it's cunning and baffling, powerful, I leave out the fact that life is. I leave out that there is something way bigger than alcoholism here, and I leave out the fact that space travel is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and I leave out that all these other things are. And so what's kind of happened to us is humbled by the fact that this current moment that's happening out in front of us is a result of 13.8 billion years of shit we know nothing about, and then we seem to want to have a disagreement with it a lot of the time. How do we disagree with 13.8 billion years of production that's been out there in front of us, and now we look at this moment going, not good enough, it shouldn't be raining, or whatever we say about it. And so but the humility seems to come, and I want to say it, humility seems to even have a possibility when we can admit one thing. So humility is the admittance, for me personally, and it might not be that way for you, but it's an admittance that I'm a complete fraud. It's the admittance that all my behavior and everything that I've been up to for the entire life has always been about looking good. And if I look at what else it's been up to besides looking good, what I've been up to is I've been up to not getting the short end of the stick. I've been up to fairness, and I've been up to making sure that I was a good judge of what I was getting from you, and if I was getting enough and you were giving enough, and make sure that's fair. And I had to make sure I wasn't getting shorted at the store, and I had to make sure I wasn't getting conned by nobody. And I had to live that way, and I had to live in a way that also, it was about looking good. When I say looking good, I don't mean the nice shoes, and I don't mean everything. I mean everything about looking good. I mean down to every piece of what it meant to looking good. I mean, if you said something to me that I don't like, that you said it, I don't look good when you said that, so I'm going to now try to dominate you in a different way. It was about dominating people and making sure that I was smarter than them, and not just making sure I was smarter than them, making sure they goddamn well knew it. I needed to prove it. And I spent my time proving my rightness, and I wanted to prove your wrongness. And this was really what I was up to, but I didn't have the humility to admit I was up to that. I didn't have the humility to admit, oh man, underneath what's really going on here is there's something inside of me that just seems to be dragging me along, and it's up to this thing about looking good all day, and it's up to watching out for fairness. And the trauma that comes with being on the lookout in my life. The trauma that came from watching people to make sure they weren't screwing me over, to make sure that nobody was really saying stupid things to me or affecting my reputation, and make sure if I say this lyric is the song lyric, and I'm singing the song lyric, and then I sing it wrong, the embarrassment of that, and now maybe I have to prove to you that I know the lyric, I was just kidding, or what I know, or whatever it has to be. But the humility to check out and get really down underneath what this thing is doing for us and what it's up to. What is it up to? You have something inside of you that's guiding you. You have something inside of you that's telling you what to say, that's telling you what to do, this thing that's telling you how to behave, and it's up to something. And now when people lack humility, we tell them they're up to something, and they say, no, I'm not up to that. Really, what I'm up to is you don't know, and what I'm saying that I'm up to is what I'm up to. So there's this lack of humility. We had a lady today. She said she's altruistic. She said, no, my motivation is altruistic, she said. She said, it doesn't have anything to do with me. Yeah, see, that's a contradiction. Well, why would you do it? You see, why do we do things that have nothing to do with us? They obviously have to have something to do with it. But I said, no, maybe it's about you. And it's okay that it's about you. She said, no, this is nothing about me. This is about altruism and about me making an impact and having see, when we start looking at it deeper, and then she said, but I'm not a leader. She said, I'm not a leader. They just put me in this position. Now I must lead. And I said, well, see, that lacks humility. There's a certain honesty in saying, everything that I do is motivated for me. Really. If I do things and I want things, now the humility to understand these two little forms of work that there are in our day-to-day basis. There's two little domains of things that we can work on. And I want to challenge you and see which one you're working on. And the first one that most people are working on, see, because we want to fix what's wrong here. We always want to fix what's wrong. Something's wrong. It's never right. So first of all, I'll give you the location of acceptance inside of us. Like acceptance not being an action that we do, but reminding you that acceptance, there is no action to acceptance. Really, if I tell you accept something, that's a very difficult proposition. Hey, I said that to you, just go ahead and accept it. Your kid's an addict, just go ahead and accept that. Your tire's flat, accept it. There's no action that leads to that. So if we could boil it down to this thing that we can work at, that acceptance is actually a location that we can live in. That we all know what it feels like to live inside in the location of acceptance. Now, if we can have enough humility to be honest with that and say, wow, if acceptance is a location, what's inside me for that location is very rare. Very rare do I get to that place where everything's just right. Very rare do I get to that location that Art's talking about, where I can sit down with a cup of coffee, or I can sit and watch my favorite show and nothing is going on but just perfect. And acceptance is this location where inside here matches up with outside there, and we're kind of okay and appreciative this 13.8 billion year culmination of what's going on out there. So this location of acceptance, to really understand that, and to understand how rare we're in it. And the humility to say, most of my life is about trying to get to the location of acceptance, but using something out in the world. I'm trying to make it different than it really is. I'm trying to really, and so the two types of work to get to this location of acceptance, one would be, well, let's see, I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to create an identity that accepts itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the right job, the right car, the right family, the right house, the right living situation. And once that's all lined up in my identity, and once I have my story right, then I'll be in acceptance. Well, see, we're taking it a different way over here, and we're saying you're never going to get there. If you want to live in the location of acceptance, you're going to have to first have the humility to know that you were doing that. First have the humility to state that your motivation, everything that you've been motivated to do, is really just this identity work that you're trying to create a better identity so you can finally fucking sit still. To really admit that. See? And then actually say, well, if I was doing that, and I acknowledge that I was doing that, and because I was doing that, I'm a complete fraud in my endeavor, I move over here in this fraudulent way of saying my motivation is for you, or I do this for you, and I did that for you, and I do this for this, and I'm selfless, and I go over here, and this is why I do everything. Come on, quit with that. Or we can just go over here, and what we're saying is very simplistic. There's energy work. There's energy work to do. There's simple a work where we simply sit here and understand that our blood pressure fluctuates from time to time. Our muscles fluctuate from time to time. They get tight, they get loose. I breathe, the blood pressure slows down, and we get down with the true business of blood pressure work and the true business of energy work. You see, but it takes giving up this thing, and it takes the humility to admit that I'm completely fraudulent in all my endeavors. See, this deeper state of humility that says I am always a fraud, and I'm humbled not only by that, I'm humbled by the fact that every time I think I know something, I don't know anything. Every time I'm sure I think I know what's going on, it usually isn't what's going on. This real thing that not only inside me is this going on, it's going on whenever I look at any subject matter. It's going on when I look under the surface of everything. Whenever I look under the surface, I find a deeper level of something that I couldn't have found if I wasn't humbled. I would have stopped at, I know what that is. And if I look deeper with humility, it's deeper than I ever thought I was. But on the surface, I know everything. And on the surface, I know what that is, and I know what that is, and I can just teach you, and you can come here, and I can say, I know, and you should listen. But I don't know. And it's not addiction that's baffling me, it's life. How did we get here? Where are we going? These kind of questions are deep. How come we have something inside of us that's guiding us, but we think it's us? How come this thing is up to something all day and we don't even know what it's up to? How can I be pulled along by the illusion that there's going to be a better now someday? Teacher? See, remember, I tell you, if you come here, you're going to learn something. The first level of coming into this room and the first level of our program is this shit is very interesting. What this guy's saying is kind of interesting. That's the first level. The second level of our program is this shit is very interesting. I know a lot of people that need it. That's the second level. I need to get my brother here. I need to get my wife here. I need to get my kid here. That's the second level. The third level is wait. He might be talking about me. And the fourth level is, because I know he's talking about me and because he's talking about the human experience, I'm going to delve into it a little bit and I'm going to get it. And once I've gotten the fact that I can just have so much work to do, even experiencing what's going on inside here, so much energy work to do. I'll tell you right now, go be your foot. I want you to be your foot right now. Just swim down there, feel your foot and touch the floor. You see? You can identify with your foot and you can be your foot. You've been walking on those things all day, but you didn't identify as your feet, so you didn't even feel what they felt. See, we can detach and we can swim around in here and do energy work all day, experience what it's like to be inside here, but we're too busy trying to fix what's out there. We're too busy worrying what everything else is out there that's going to fix it when we're not even really looking at the real issue. So the humility to get back down with all this stuff and to get on a deeper level of everything. Addiction, you come here and talk about addiction. Addiction is the absolute perfect solution to everything. It really is. It's beautiful. So if you came here and you thought you were on that level, where if we could just stop that, then things were going to get better, well, that's not going to happen at all. Until you begin to have the humility as a human being to say, wait, I can't even help people. And what I've called help people my entire life is doing something for them. So even on the level of humility or acceptance, we can sit here and we can say, you know, I didn't even know my entire life that acceptance wasn't, for me, I always thought acceptance was some action, and I couldn't figure out when people told me to accept things that I couldn't accept them. I couldn't figure that one out. And on a deeper level, I need you to understand that acceptance is this place we live in. Every drug addict in this room knows about that location because it comes right the moment after we take a shot or a drink or a hit. We get to that location, and if I'm talking to drug addicts in this room that have been to that location, they know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. I know what he means by the location of acceptance. And I also know what it means by taking more and more drugs to get to that location. And the normal dose that I took yesterday isn't the same dose that works today. And we all know that sitting here for drugs, that acceptance was a location. We loved it. We stayed there. And even in our addictions, it started getting harder and harder to reach. We couldn't find it. Nothing could get just right. And that's why we quit using drugs. It stopped working. So we come here, and then the new goal is now to expand this location of acceptance, to be able to accept life the way it is, the way this beautiful moment is, and gratitude, it ain't a list. I'm so tired of people's goddamn gratitude lists. If you got to make a list, you're missing the thing. 13.8 billion years is culminating in this moment, and you got to have a list to be grateful for it? You got to look out there and say it ain't right, and you need a way to make it right in your head? What about the gratitude to just go, what the hell? Like that. So gratitude is not no list. It's this thing that we happen, and we get this, oh, I want to be able to appreciate this. Well, the reason I can't appreciate this is I'm not in that location of acceptance inside here, not because this is wrong. This is fine. And the humility to see what's going on that's blocking us. The humility to see what we've been up to all day rather than doing that. The actual thing that you've been up to. The business of looking good. The business of your identity. It ain't about your kid being a drug addict. It's about what people think about your kid being a drug addict. It ain't about that. You don't even know. How can you even be scared about being your kid about being a drug addict? You've never had a kid that's a drug addict. But our fear is not, oh man, I'm going to get a kid that's a drug addict. I'm going to have a kid that's a drug addict. What will people think? See, that's honesty. That's true for me. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you don't have the humility to admit that. That really, it ain't about me going broke. I've been broke before. It's about what people will think of me if I go broke. Really, to sit here with some saying, I'm a fraud in every aspect of the game and I can't stop. I don't know shit. And I'm trying to teach in a way that shows that I don't know. Because looking back every year, I figure out how stupid I was last year. I know for sure I was pretty stupid last year. So I must be stupid now. The humility to say, listen, we don't know what all this thing is. We see a very limited picture of what's going on. What I will do is do this energy work. I have learned to stay in this location inside of me. I have learned that people will do things out there in the world and it will try to pull me out of my location of acceptance. And when I get pulled out of that location, I do and say things that are a detriment to my life and to the life of others. And as I sit here in this deeper location of acceptance, I'm capable of love and I'm capable of experiencing people and connecting with them. And when I'm outside of this, I'm playing a role. I'm playing some fraudulent role that's about my identity, and I'm trying to tell you I'm not. I'm trying to tell you it's not about looking good, it's about something else. So the humility to admit it. Geez, look at my life. Look back on it. Hasn't it been about looking good? Wasn't it about looking good in high school? Wasn't it about looking good when you bought the house? Wasn't it about looking good when you found out your kid was an addict? Hasn't it always been about looking good? Yes, addiction gets worse. It stops being about worrying about looking good and starts being getting some sleep. I get it. It gets deeper. But that initial thing is, this doesn't look too good. So we've come a long way to become philosophical. We knew a lot more 4 years ago. And that's a contradiction, but it's true. And that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. Yes, we can still guide you in your endeavor, probably better qualified than most. But now we guide you in endeavor with the humility that maybe we didn't know everything. So we're here to guide you in your endeavor. We're here to take you through a transformational process. And the transformational process is not the adding of anything. It's not the being more of something. It's stripping away resentment. It's stripping away anger. It's stripping away a lack of patience. It's stripping away urgency. It's calming this inner energy, sitting still, and transforming as a human being to sit and act and do things from this beautiful location. So the transformation process is just this expansion of this location which you swim around inside of you and live in. This location of acceptance that gets bigger and bigger. And if that's not getting bigger and bigger, you are not transforming. Trust me, if the way you live your life in acceptance from a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis the duration isn't getting longer, I don't know how we can equate that you're in a transformational process. So to be able to, I was once resentful and angry and urgent and panicked and couldn't sit still and I never thought everything was right, and now it's easy in here. It's calm and it's easy.